Hello. Welcome back to the story corner for story time. I am so late today, so I totally spaced it time wise, and I
Hi, this is my pet
excuse me.
fox named Foxy.
um, I just spaced it, and I kind of forgot about the reading.
We have
I
a-
took my hair down and everything. So.
He has a gone tooth.
Yep, she's missing her tooth. I think you already showed her. Okay, so I didn't bring anything to show because I just barely realized that I was half an hour late to do reading. I got busy and just gone. So just before I get started, what did you have for dinner? It's kind of fun to know. we had leftovers. I know Sunday dinner. What's he doing? It's a long day, so leftovers was easy for me, especially because we had a bunch of leftovers. So we had leftover mashed potatoes, leftover meatloaf, leftover corn, and then I had some rolls.
What did you have for dinner?
Then I had some leftover rolls, so I made garlic cheese bread on the rolls, and I made some deviled eggs, and anyway, it was good. I actually like leftovers, so that's not usually a problem for me. Don't cover the camera, sis. Anyway, that's what we had for dinner, so let me know, sis. Don't cover the camera. Thank you. Oh, no, not with those. Here, sis, we put these where he cannot reach them. The Sharpies, he can't have those. He can have the ones that aren't permanent. The washable ones. You can take the washable ones. Yeah, the ones that I can clean. Don't write on those papers. Don't write on these.
I'm making the smiley
Okay,
face.
but I need these papers. These are for my work. Oh my goodness, we are so distracted tonight. Sorry. We finished Understood Betsy yesterday, but I made the biggest mistake. So when I started up my computer, it had updated. You know how it does? You have to sit there and wait for it to update forever. And it got all updated, and I logged into YouTube, and I went live, and I recorded the whole last chapter. And when I got done, I realized that it was just my regular YouTube, like where I used to go watch videos, and I didn't actually do it live to the story corner. So then I have to download it and re-upload it, and you can't download it immediately after you make the video. Like, you have to let it process for like half the day. So I'm gonna add that, but I did it last night. I read it and everything, and nobody showed up. I was like, oh, nobody came. I was on the wrong channel. So yeah, that was stupid. But I will get the last chapter of Understood Betsy uploaded, and then we will start Evelina. And I love this book. It's really, really cute. It's Old by Fanny Burney. There's a picture of the cover, so you can kind of see by the dress the time period, right? And the the woman who wrote it, Fanny Burney, or Frances Burney, not Fanny, Frances Burney, lived. Oh, I thought it was in the 1600s. It's the 1752 is when she was born until 1840. So she lived a long life. But she wrote this book. Let's see, where's the year? So it's set, I think, in the late 1700s, which is kind of fun because I really enjoy reading books, older books that were written at the time they're supposed to be, because in modern times people will go back and write a book that's supposed to be 200 or 300 years ago, and the language is not accurate, and a lot of the way things were, it has a modern twist on it because you perceive how it was in the past by how things are now. So I really love to read these old books because it gets you a true feel for the way they spoke to each other, the way the culture was, the way people interacted with each other, the dynamics, And so it's really fun to me for that reason. And it's also hard to understand, I think I've mentioned. And I'll kind of maybe explain it as we go. Because the way they spoke to each other lots of times, it was very formal and very, I don't know, today you listen to somebody talk. I don't know, like I was just totally like, and it was like for real, and I didn't even know. I mean, you can say a bazillion words and not actually say anything. Every word they said had meaning. They did not have all these random filler ridiculous words that were meaningless. When they spoke, it meant something. It was different. So they seemed a lot more intelligent, to be honest. But anyway, okay. Um this book is letters, almost entirely written letters, which is kind of fun. I don't know. There's a couple books that are like that, and I love them. Daddy Longlegs is a favorite book of mine, and it's all letters. So I love it. I love this book. We're gonna get started. Chapter 1. Make sure. Wait a minute. Oh, that was still the preface. Sorry. Okay, letter 1. Excuse me, my goodness, I am losing my voice. Letter 1. Lady Howard to the Reverend Mr. Billers, Howard Grove, Kent. So it's set in England. Kent is in Britain. Trying to decide if I should do the accent. I'm not real good at it, so it might be just annoying, but it's also kind of dumb to read this book written in the 1700s with an American accent. I don't know. What do you think? Okay. Lady Howard to the Reverend Mr. Billers. Can anything, my good sir, be more painful to a friendly mind than a necessity of communicating disagreeable intelligence? Indeed, it is sometimes difficult to determine whether the relator of the receiver of evil tidings is most to be pitied. I have just had a letter from Madame Duval. She is totally at a loss in what manner. Excuse me. Sorry. In what manner to behave. She seems desirous to repair the wrong she has done, yet wishes the world to believe her blameless. She would fain cast upon another the odium of those misfortunes for which she alone is answerable. Her letter is violent, sometimes abusive, and that of you to whom she is under obligations which are greater even than her faults, but to whose advice she wickedly imputes all the sufferings of her much injured daughter, the late Lady Belmont. So if she's the late, it means she's passed away. The chief purport of her writing I will acquaint you with. The letter itself is not worthy of your notice. She tells me that she has for many years past been in continual expectation of making a journey to England, which prevented her writing for information concerning this melancholy subject, by giving her hopes of making personal inquiries, but family occurrences have still detained her in France, which country she now sees no prospect of quitting. She has therefore lately used her utmost endeavors to obtain a faithful account of whatever related to her ill-advised daughter, the result of which giving her some reason to apprehend that, upon her deathbed, she bequeathed an infant orphan to the world. She most graciously says that if you, with whom she understands the child is placed, will procure authentic proofs of its relationship to her, you may send it to Paris, where she will probably provide for it. So I know this is kind of hard to follow, so I'll kind of explain. So there's a woman that is acquainted with this Lady Duval. She had a daughter, and her daughter died. And when she died, she had an infant daughter that she put in the care of this the Reverend Villers, to take care of. And this woman is very angry and abusive to this reverend, and she's saying, if you can prove that that's my daughter's child, then send her to me in Paris and I'll take care of her. The woman is undoubtedly at length self-convicted of her most unnatural behavior. It is evident from her writing that she is still as vulgar and illiterate as when her first husband, Mr. Evelyn, had the weakness to marry her, nor does she at all apologize for addressing herself to me, though I was only once in her company. That's another thing back in that time. You would never write a letter to someone or walk up and speak to someone if you had not been acquainted or introduced. Like, for you to write a letter to someone without knowing them and being intimately acquainted with them was considered very rude and forward. And you would never walk up to a person and talk to them unless somebody introduce them, or you were in a situation where you could introduce yourself formally, like, at an assembly or something like that. But I mean, just the fact that she wrote to this woman and she's only met her once, she's like, wow, she's rude, So it's kind of a whole different ball game back then. Her letter has excited in my daughter Mervan a strong desire to be informed of the motives which induced Madame Duval to abandon the unfortunate Lady Belmont. So the Lady Belmont is Madame Duval's daughter, and she's the one who had the baby and died. At a time when a mother's protection was peculiarly necessary for her peace and her reputation. Notwithstanding, I was personally acquainted with all the parties concerned in that affair. The subject always appeared of too delicate a nature to be spoken of with the principals. I cannot therefore satisfy Mrs. Mervan otherwise than by applying to you. So that's another thing in the time. Even though this this woman has been acquainted with not only the Reverend, but Lady Belmont and the Madame Duval. She's been acquainted with all of the situation. It's not her place to discuss it with her daughter, even though her daughter knows a little bit about it and kind of keeps asking her questions. She's like, well, I can't tell her unless you give me permission to. They're very respectful about not passing on delicate or sensitive information to other people. It was considered very ill-mannered, rude to acquaint anyone else with someone's personal, like, even if you were there and you knew it, you didn't talk about it unless the people involved gave you permission. It's kind of a taboo thing. It's not like people didn't do it, but it was considered very rude and inconsiderate. By saying that you may send the child, Madame Duval aims at conferring where she most owes obligation. I pretend not to give you advice. You, to whose generous protection this helpless orphan is indebted for everything, are the best and only judge of what she ought to do, but I am much concerned at the trouble and uneasiness with which this unworthy woman may occasion you. Hi, baby. My daughter and my grandchild join with me in desiring to be most kindly remembered to the amiable girl, and they bid me remind you that the annual visit to Howard Grove. Come on. 1, 2, 3. Oh. You got it? Oh, okay. See ya. Where you going? Bye-bye. I love you. I wish you could see him running out the door. He always runs like a little drunk dude. He's so cute. His shoulders back and his belly out. He's so adorable. My daughter and my grandchild join with me in desiring to be most kindly remembered to the amiable girl, and they bid me remind you that the annual visit to Howard Grove, which we were formerly promised, has been discontinued for more than 4 years. I am, dear sir, with great regard, your most obedient friend and servant, M. Howard. So that's the first letter, and apparently they go visit this Howard Grove where the Reverend lives every year. They used to, and they haven't come for 4 years, so she's kind of reminded him to invite her. Very polite way to say, hello, we haven't been here for a while. Let me see how long the second letter is. Yeah, it's short. Some of them are long, some are short, so I'll probably just kind of keep track ahead of time, so I'll know if I should read 1 or 2 or 3. So I will read another one tonight. I did get started so late, nobody came on because I missed my starting time. Sorry about that, but you can come back and watch it. It'll be here. Okay. Mr. Villars to Lady Howard. So this is the Reverend returning the letter. Berry Hill, Dorsetshire. Your ladyship did but too well foresee the perplexity and uneasiness of which Madame Duval's letter has been productive. However, I ought rather to be thankful that I have so many years remained unmolested, than repine at my present embarrassment, since it proves at least that this wretched woman is at length awakened to remorse. In regard to my answer, I must humbly request your ladyship to write to this effect, that I would not, upon any account, intentionally offend Madame Duval, but that I have weighty, nay, unanswerable reasons for detaining her granddaughter at present in England. What? Oh, did you get a ball? Oh, nice. The principle of which is that it was the earnest desire of one to whose will she owes implicit duty Madame Duval may be assured that she meets with the utmost attention and tenderness, that her education, however short of my wishes, almost exceeds my abilities, and I flatter myself when the time arrives that she shall pay her duty to her grandmother, Madame Duval will find no reason to be dissatisfied with what has been done for her. So he's saying, I will do everything I can for her and more. I will take care of her. But basically, the mother's last wish was for him to take her child, and so he's like, "There's no circumstances that would have me send this child to the grandmother. Her mother gave her to me, and he takes full responsibility." Your ladyship will not, I am sure, be surprised at this answer. Madame Duval is by no means a proper companion or guardian for a young woman. She is at once uneducated and unprincipled, ungentle in her temper, and unamiable in her manners. I have long known that she has persuaded herself to harbor an aversion for me. Unhappy woman, I can only regard her as an object of pity. I dare not hesitate at a request from Mrs. Mirvan, yet in complying with it, I shall, for her own sake, be as concise as I possibly can. Since the cruel transactions which preceded the birth of my ward can afford no entertainment to a mind so humane as hers. Your ladyship may probably have heard that I had the honor to accompany Mr. Evelyn, the grandfather of my young charge, when upon his travels in the capacity of a tutor. So this is the guy that married the Madame Duval that they're talking about, that both of them obviously don't like. She's not a very wonderful person. His unhappy marriage immediately upon his return to England with Madame Duval, then a waiting girl at a tavern. Oh, so she was like a poor waitress at a tavern, but I think she was really beautiful, so she was able to seduce him. I mean, not seduce him because he married her first, right? But he had money and she wanted it. She was beautiful, so she used her wiles to get him to marry her so she could have his money. So she was a waiting girl at a tavern. Contrary to the advice and entreaties of all his friends, among whom I was myself the most urgent, induced him to abandon his native land and fix his abode in France. So they wanted him to go back to France with her, because she's a French woman, and not keep her in England because she's a really nasty, low woman. Thither he was followed by shame and repentance, feelings which his heart was not framed to support, for notwithstanding he had been too weak to resist the allurements of beauty, see, I was right, which nature, though a niggard to her of every other boon, and that's niggard, everybody relax, I did not say the N-word, that just means um, basically she was denied, and it might be niggard, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Niggard, Niggard. But basically, it's saying she had nothing, no redeeming qualities. She's like this low, vile woman. The only thing she had was beauty. Every other boon had with a lavish hand bestowed on his wife, yet he was a young man of excellent character, until thus unaccountably infatuated, of unblemished conduct. So he's a really sweet, good guy. He was infatuated with this girl because she was absolutely beautiful. She was able to convince him to marry her, and then he found out she was kind of a horrible person. He survived this ill-judged marriage but 2 years. So she actually drove him to his deathbed because she was so awful. Like he couldn't deal with it, which is terrible. And health was a very fragile thing back then because they didn't have a lot of, if they had uh, if they got too stressed, they would get really, really sick, and then the doctors would come and bleed them, to take the bad blood out, and then you die because they took all your blood. I mean, so people, I mean, things like that could actually take you completely out. Like just having that bad experience wiped him out, and he died 2 years after he married her. Upon his deathbed, with an unsteady hand, he wrote me the following note. I love you. My friend, forget your resentment in favor of your humanity. A father, trembling for the welfare of his child, bequeaths her to your care. O Villers, hear, pity, and relieve me. So he married this woman, terrible person, and they had a daughter. And on his deathbed, he sent his daughter to this Reverend Mr. Villers. Said, please take my child. He did not want her to be with her mother because her mother's like a horrible person. And so the mother, this woman, the Madame Duval, she hates the Reverend Villers because she's like, he stole my daughter, but he didn't. Her husband, good friend, I guess, because they were closer to the same age, but he was somebody that Mr. Evelyn looked up to. So he sent his daughter to her because he was like, she cannot be in France. She cannot be with Madame Duval. So Madame Duval hates him. He stole her daughter, but he raised this Lady Belmont. And then Lady Belmont had a baby and died and sent her baby to Reverend Villers. So he's actually been like involved with the 3 generations of this family. Has been like a father to like a brother to the man, and then like a father to his daughter, and then like a father and grandfather to the granddaughter. So yeah, it's kind of complicated and it's hard to follow. So I will kind of like to say, I'll explain it as we go, but it's such a cute story. Had my circumstances permitted me, I should have answered these words by an immediate journey to Paris, but I was obliged to act by the agency of a friend who was upon the spot and present at the opening of the will. So he couldn't actually go get the baby. You know, that Mr. Evelyn asked him to take the baby. He had a friend who was there, and he was in Britain, not France. So he wrote to his friend and said, will you take care of this? Mr. Evelyn left to me a legacy of £1,000, which at that time was, I mean, that was probably like $50,000 today, I would guess. I mean, I don't know. Don't say, oh yeah, 50,000, but it was a lot of money. Like it was a chunk. So and that would be like to support and take care of his daughter for life, you know. What's the matter? Huh? How come you're grumpy? What did you? Say hi. 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 Say hi. 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 Oh, hug. Oh, thank you, baby. Little Mr. Grumpus. Okay, back to the book.
And here's these lips. They look like they have sprinkles on them. And you can't really see that it looks like there's sprinkles on them.
Yeah, they're sparkly.
Yeah.
Mr. Evelyn left me a legacy of £1,000 and the sole guardianship of his daughter's person till her 18th year, conjuring me in the most effecting terms to take the charge of her education till she was able to act with propriety for herself. But in regard to fortune, he left her wholly dependent on her mother, to whose tenderness he earnestly recommended her. So basically, he gave the money that he could to Mr. Villers and the daughter and said, please raise her. But he expected when she turned 18 and wanted to be married and have a dowry and all that was so important. Hey, be nice. What? Hey, don't pull my hair. Be nice. What's the matter? What do you need? What do you need? To put a sticker on your nose? You didn't like that. You wanted me to wear it on my nose last time. Beep. Beep. Oh! I put it on my nose. Here. Uh-oh. Here. See? You want one? Oh, you want another one on my nose? Oh. Sorry, we're quite distracted. That's so silly. That looks silly. Oh. Look at you. I got you. I got you. I got you. Oh, did it hurt? Should I get it off? They're not that sticky. Let me get it off. Look. There you go. Okay. Oh, sorry, I look so messy. Thus, though he would not, to a woman low-bred and illiberal as Mrs. Evelyn, trust the conduct and morals of his daughter, he nevertheless thought proper to secure to her the respect and duty which, from her own child, were certainly her due. But unhappily, it never occurred to him that the mother, on her part, could fail in affection or justice. So basically, so he was a wealthy man, and she was a serving girl, terrible person. She wanted his money, so she married him. He died 2 years later, and she got all of his fortune, so she had all the wealth she needed. So he sent a portion of his money to the Reverend with his daughter and said, please raise her for me. She cannot be in the presence of her mother. When she turns 18, her mother will take care of her financially, but I don't want her to be raised by her mother, right? Because he assumed the mother would care about the daughter, be affectionate and unselfish enough to support her financially because she got his whole fortune and had all his money. But no. So when the daughter turned 18, the mother was so mad that that the Reverend had taken her that she wouldn't, even though a portion of the fortune was meant to be hers, to the daughter, obviously, and take care of her, the mother wouldn't give it to her. She's like, nope, it's mine. So, like I said, she's kind of a horrible person. Thus, though he would not, oh yeah, I read that. Miss Evelyn, madam, from the 2nd to the 18th year of her life, was brought up under my care, and except when at school under my roof. I need not speak to your ladyship of the virtues of that excellent young creature. She loved me as her father, nor was Mrs. Villars less valued by her, while to me she became so dear that her loss was little less afflicting than that which I have sustained of Mrs. Villars herself. So him and his wife raised her. She was like their daughter. She loved them. They loved her. She was really, like, they did a really good job raising her. She's this wonderful, beautiful person. And when she died, it affected him as much as when his wife died. He loved her. She was his family. At that period of her life, we parted. Her mother, then married to Monsieur Duval, sent for her to Paris. How often? Oh, so the Madame Duval, she remarried after Mr. Evelyn died. So she married this Duval French guy. So she married the rich guy, got his money, had his daughter. The daughter was taken away. She married another man and then wouldn't support the daughter but kept all the money. Then married to Monsieur Duval, sent for her to Paris. So the mother finally, when the daughter was 18, said, "Okay, send her to me and I want to see her." So now that she's 18, he sent her to Paris to be with her mother, which was the father's wish. He assumed the mother would take care of her financially, but she didn't want to give her a dowry. She just wanted her to go marry a rich man, and so she wouldn't have to support her financially. How often have I since regretted that I did not accompany her thither? He just wishes he would have gone with her. Protected and supported by me, the misery and disgrace which awaited her might perhaps have been avoided. But to be brief, Madame Duval, at the instigation of her husband, earnestly, or rather tyrannically, endeavored to effect a union between Miss Evelyn and one of his nephews. And when she found her power inadequate to her intent, enraged at her noncompliance, she treated her with the grossest unkindness and threatened her with poverty and ruin. So she tried to force her to marry this man that is her new husband's nephew. And we're just like, no, I don't want to marry him. He's not a great person. She was quite abusive to her and told her she would just, abandon her and leave her in poverty and ruin, and she would have no one to take care of her. And the thing is this daughter was raised with such kindness and love. You can imagine how foreign this would be to her and how overwhelming to go finally to be with her mother. And her mother's this horrible human being that's threatening her and abusing her and trying to force her to marry this terrible man. And that's a rough situation. Miss Evelyn, to whom wrath and violence had hitherto been strangers, soon grew weary of such usage, and rashly and without a witness consented to a private marriage with Sir John Belmont. So she married him just because she just couldn't take it anymore. And there was no witness to prove that they were married. a very profligate young man who had but too successfully found means to insinuate himself into her favor. Also, she's very beautiful, like her mother. He promised to conduct her to England. He did. Oh, son, what do you have? What is it? What is it? Oh, madam, you know the rest. Disappointed of the fortune he expected by the inexorable rancor of the Duvals, he infamously burned the certificate of their marriage and denied that they had ever been united. So he's the nephew of her mother's new husband, and they convince him to marry her and force her into this marriage, and she doesn't want to do it, but they threaten her with ruin and everything. So he finally marries her, and then they refuse to give him her fortune that she was supposed to get. So then he's really mad because he only married her because he wanted the inheritance she was supposed to get, and her mother won't give it to her. So he burns the marriage certificate. There's no witness to say, hey, I was there. They are married. So she married him, got pregnant. He burned the marriage certificate and abandoned her. And so then everybody's like, oh, she's like this hussy, this girl who slept around and got pregnant. So she's like, no, I was married to him. She was his wife, but there's no certificate. He burned it and there was no witness. So there's no proof that she was married to him. So everybody, so she became an outcast of this, terrible woman and had a daughter. So that's just, oh my goodness. It's so messed up. It's so the very first part is so trying to untangle everything that happened is a little complicated. I'm trying to help as best I can. She flew to me for protection. With what mixed transports of joy and anguish did I again see her. By my advice, she endeavored to procure proofs of her marriage, but in vain. Her credulity had been no match for his art. Everybody believed her innocent from the guiltless tenor of her unspotted youth and from the known libertinism of her betrayer. So the people who knew her knew she wasn't lying and believed her, but everywhere else she went, she was ruined, her reputation and everything. Yet her sufferings were too acute for her tender frame, and she, the same moment she gave birth to her infant, put an end at once to the sorrows and the life of its mother. So she too died shortly after. She couldn't take it, all the stress and the pressure, and her reputation ruined, her life destroyed by this man. So she died when her child was born. She just gave up. And so then he had the daughter. The rage of Madame Duval at her elopement abated not while this injured victim of cruelty yet drew breath. She probably intended in time to have pardoned her, but time was not allowed. So he thinks that eventually she was going to give in and give her the fortune, but she couldn't take it, so she died. And so then Madame Duval, her mother's furious because she's like, oh, would she go be a big baby and run off for him, run to Mr. Villers? I would have given her the money eventually, but she didn't know that. And besides, she wasn't used to being so cruelly treated. What's the matter? Say hi, hi. Hey, be nice. Be nice. What is it? It's a little pin. Kayla's pin she wanted me to wear. It's a little bottle of lemonade. What is it? It's cute. It's silly. It's silly. Oh, you just want hug. He wants my full attention. He wants both my hands and my eyes on him. What? What? Do you need lots of love? Are your ears hurting? Your teeth are hurting. I know they're swollen. Should we get you some ibuprofen? He's been so grumpy. He's such a rough teether. Oh my goodness, weeks and weeks and weeks his teeth swell and he's so sad. Just a minute, I'm almost done. Almost done. Yeah. What's so funny? Hey, don't pull my hair. Ow. Don't pull my hair. Be soft. Okay, we're gonna finish. We're going to hurry and finish. Oh, look. Ouch. We're going to hurry and finish, and then you can have Mama. Okay? Say, Mama. Hey, don't kick my desk, you little pumpkin. You're such a pumpkin. It's almost done. Look, only a tiny bit more. Just for 1 minute. He always gets so mad right at the last little bit. Okay, come here. When she was informed of her death, I have been told that the agonies of grief and remorse with which she was seized occasioned her a severe fit of illness. But from the time of her recovery to the date of her letter to your ladyship, I had never heard that she manifested any desire to be made acquainted with the circumstances which attended the death of Lady Belmont. So she doesn't even know what happened. She just knows she had a baby and died. She doesn't know what John Belmont, what the father did to her or anything. That child, madame, shall never, while life is lent me, know the loss she has sustained. I have cherished, succored, and supported her from her earliest infancy to her 16th year, and so simply has she repaid my care and affection that my fondest wish is now circumscribed by the desire of bestowing her you're so helpful by bestowing her on one who may be sensible of her worth, and then sinking to eternal rest in her. So this is the second generation he's raised, almost the third, because he was like an older brother father figure to the guy. Just a minute, baby. So he's raised her up in his greatest desire, and she's so sweet and pure and beautiful. His desire is to make sure that she marries well, because he's seen what happened to these two other people he cared about that made such terrible marriages that completely ruined their lives and drove them both to their grave. So he's living his whole life to take care of her. Hey, be nice. Make sure she ends up in a good situation so he can finally rest and, be at peace until he's dead. Hey, look, you gotta quit being grumpy. Oh. Hey, you can't be grumpy. I'm almost done. Should I put another? Hey, be nice. Be soft to Mama. Be soft. Oh, soft. Oh, thank you, soft. That's right. Be soft. Here, I'll put a sticker on my nose if that'll entertain you. It's a little ridiculous, but he loves it. Here you go. Oh, you want to do it too? Here you go. Here's another one. Here. Thus it has happened that in the education of the father, daughter, and granddaughter has devolved upon me. With what infinite misery have the first two caused me. Should the fate of the dear survivor be equally adverse, how wretched will be the end of my cares, the end of my days. Poor guy. Where is it? Where'd it go? Uh-oh. Even had Madame Duval merited the charge that she claimed, I fear my fortitude would have been unequal to such a parting. But believe, being such as she is, not only my affection, but my humanity recoils at the barbarous idea of deserting the sacred trust reposed to me. So he's like, there's no way in hell I'm sending this girl to that woman in the nicest way possible. That's what he's saying. Indeed, I could ill support her former yearly visits to the respectable mansion at Howard Grove. Pardon me, dear madam, and do not think me insensible of the honor which your ladyship's condescension confers upon us both. But so deep is the impression which the misfortunes of her mother have made on my heart, that she does not, even for a moment, quit my sight without exciting apprehensions and terrors which almost overpower me. Such, madame, is my tenderness, and such my weakness. But she is the only tie I have upon earth, and I trust your ladyship's goodness not to judge of my feelings with severity. I beg leave to present my humble respects to Mr. and Mrs. Mervyn, and have the honor to be, madam, your ladyship's most obedient and most humble servant, Arthur Villars. Okay, so that's the end of letter 2. So that is probably the most complicated part, trying to keep up with the Reverend and his relationship to the father, her daughter, his wife. Like, it's really complicated right at the first. So like probably the first 3 times I listened to us, I kind of had it twisted in my mind. even though I was kind of following, but I would get a little confused every time, and then I had to straighten it all out every time. So I'm trying to keep it as clear as possible as we read to explain it, so you can kind of follow the story, because the story is so cute, but it's, if you're always now what, then it's not as enjoyable to listen to. So I'm trying to keep it easy to understand. Anyway, this little grumpy guy wants mama. Oh, I love you so much, little pumpkin. He needs all the attention. Do you need all the attention? Okay, we'll go. We'll say good night. Bye bye. Good night. Bye bye. Yeah, I love you so much. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoy this book as much as I do. I'm looking forward to reading it with you. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming to the story corner with the story lady for story time. Good night. Bye bye. Say bye bye. Bye bye. I love you. I love you. You're good. Bye.